If nobody talks about you, you think you've lost. You scroll through the room, the conversations, the group chats, the dinner tables, and you notice it. The way people look through you instead of at you. The way your name never comes up when opportunities are handed out. The way you can say something and the room keeps moving like you said nothing at all. And somewhere in that silence, a voice tells you that you don't matter. That voice is wrong. Not because it's cruel, because it's ignorant of what invisibility actually is. Here is what nobody taught you. The most dangerous predators on earth are not the ones making noise. The lion does not announce itself before the hunt. The spider does not advertise its web. The sniper does not reveal his position. Danger, real danger, operates in silence. It moves without permission. It arrives without warning. And by the time anyone notices it, the outcome is already decided. The crowd ignored you. Good. They just handed you the most powerful tactical position in any room. The position of the unseen. Most people spend their entire lives fighting to be noticed. They perform. They post. They talk louder, dress bolder, laugh harder. All of it a desperate signal fired into the void. See me, validate me, confirm that I exist. They are so consumed by the performance of power that they never actually build any. They are actors rehearsing a role they will never truly own. You are not like them, or you won't be after this. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote something that most people read and misunderstand. He said, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." But here is the part they skip. The men around a great ruler are rarely the loudest. They are the most perceptive, the most controlled, the ones who observe while others react. Machiavelli understood something about power that the modern world has forgotten. Power is not a volume dial. It is not something you turn up. It is something you accumulate, slowly, invisibly, without announcing the accumulation. The prince who survives is not the one who inspires the most applause. It is the one who makes the fewest unnecessary moves, who speaks only when silence is no longer advantageous, who is never fully legible to those around him. The crowd cannot destroy what it cannot see. It cannot envy what it cannot measure. It cannot sabotage what it does not know exists. This is the first ruthless truth you must internalize. Being ignored is not a punishment. It is cover. Now let's be precise about what is actually happening when people overlook you. Because most people get this wrong, and getting it wrong is what keeps them weak. When you are ignored, your mind immediately runs a threat assessment. It decides that you must have done something wrong, been too quiet, too strange, too much, too little. It starts editing you, rounding your edges, making you smaller, louder, more palatable, more familiar. It tells you to become easier to digest. This is the trap. This is how the crowd domesticates you without ever meaning to. The reality is simpler and more brutal. Most people ignore you not because you are beneath them, but because you are unreadable to them. You don't fit the categories they're used to sorting people into. You don't perform the right rituals. You don't signal belonging the way they've been trained to recognize it. In social psychology, there is a well-documented phenomenon. People distrust and dismiss what they don't understand. It's not malice. It's cognitive laziness. The crowd moves toward familiarity, toward whoever mirrors them back most convincingly. They reward performance. They overlook depth. So when you are overlooked, ask yourself honestly, are you being dismissed because you are lacking, or because you are different in ways they don't have the framework to appreciate yet? In almost every case, it is the latter. The ones who were ignored the longest are often the ones who, years later, everyone claims they always believed in. Memory is convenient that way. People rewrite their perception of you the moment your results become undeniable. They don't remember the years they looked through you. They remember the moment they couldn't anymore. Your job is not to make them see you sooner. Your job is to make the moment of recognition catastrophically undeniable. Rule 1 of the invisible weapon. Stop trying to be understood by people who have not earned the right to understand you. This sounds simple. It is not. Because the need to be understood is not vanity. It is biological. Humans are wired for social belonging. The pain of being overlooked activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. This is not weakness. This is architecture. But here is where you must become something the crowd is not. Deliberate about your instincts. The average person feels the pain of invisibility and immediately acts on it. They over-explain. They overshare. They perform generosity, humor, vulnerability. Whatever they think will finally crack open the door to acceptance. They spend enormous energy trying to make people comfortable with them. Watch what this costs them. Watch how the person who needs to be liked in every room becomes the person nobody takes seriously in any room. Likability without mystery is just familiarity, and familiarity over time breeds not respect, it breeds management. People stop seeing you as a force to reckon with and start seeing you as furniture, predictable, useful, movable. The man who is too easy to read is too easy to control. So the first discipline is this: let the silence stay. When you are not invited into the conversation, do not force yourself through the door. Observe. Catalog. Let them underestimate you. Every time someone dismisses you, they are showing you their ceiling. Every time someone ignores your input, they are revealing the limits of their perception. This is intelligence gathering. You are learning the room's architecture while they are busy performing for each other. The unseen man sees everything. The man at the center of attention sees only the audience. The second thing you must understand is the specific psychology of why people who are ignored often become the most dangerous people in any system. It is not despite the invisibility. It is because of it. When nobody is watching you, you are free to move, free to build, free to make mistakes without those mistakes becoming public record, free to change your mind, refine your strategy, abandon what doesn't work, without the crowd clocking every pivot and using it as evidence of inconsistency. The person everyone is watching is frozen. Every move they make is analyzed, commented on, judged. They start making decisions based not on what is strategically sound, but on what is publicly defensible. They become performers trapped by their own audience. You have no audience, so you have no performance to maintain. This is a form of freedom that most people never access because they spend too much energy trying to escape the invisibility instead of using it. They see the absence of attention as a problem to be solved. You must learn to see it as a resource to be deployed. In military strategy, there is a concept called the asymmetric advantage. The idea that a smaller, less visible force can defeat a larger, more prominent one by operating in spaces the larger force cannot see or respond to quickly enough. The guerrilla does not fight the army on the army's terms. He moves through terrain the army considers irrelevant. He strikes where he is not expected because he was never expected anywhere. You are the guerrilla. While the crowd fights for the spotlight, competing for the same narrow corridors of recognition, the same visible metrics of status, you are moving through terrain they're not even looking at, building competence they're not tracking, forming relationships they don't notice, accumulating advantages they won't see until it is far too late to counter them. History is full of people who were invisible until they were inevitable. Darwin spent 20 years developing the theory of evolution before he published it. Nobody was watching, nobody was applauding the process, and then On the Origin of Species appeared and restructured how the entire human species understood itself. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before he became president. Every loss happened in public, but the preparation, the thinking, the reading, the refinement of his political philosophy, that happened in the silence of rooms nobody was writing about. The pattern is the same. The period of invisibility was not a detour, it was the work. It was the compression chamber, the pressure that made the eventual emergence undeniable. Now here is where most people in your position make the critical mistake. They endure the invisibility, they do the work, they build in silence. And then, the moment they feel ready, the moment they sense that recognition might finally be within reach, they rush toward it. They can't help it. Years of accumulated hunger for validation suddenly have an outlet, and they overcorrect. They become loud, they start signaling, they make their ambition visible before their results are undeniable. And the crowd which has been ignoring them suddenly notices them, but not in the way they wanted. Because the crowd is not applauding. The crowd is threatened. This is the mechanism you need to understand cold. When someone who was ignored suddenly becomes visible, the social group does not automatically celebrate them. The social group recalibrates. It asks unconsciously whether this new visibility disrupts the existing hierarchy. And if the answer is yes, if your emergence means that the people who ignored you were wrong, that their judgment was flawed, that they missed something important, the response is not acknowledgement. The response is hostility. This is not irrational, it is self-protective. Nobody wants to publicly admit they underestimated someone. It is much psychologically cheaper to undermine the person's rise than to accept that you failed to recognize them when they were still beneath you. So they will find reasons your success is undeserved. They will attribute it to luck, to timing, to connections, anything that protects their original assessment of you. They will be the first to say they always knew you had potential, and the first to plant doubt in the rooms you're not in. You need to see this coming, not so that you become paranoid, so that you become prepared. And this is where the script flips, because everything said so far, the invisibility, the asymmetric advantage, the crowd's hostility, the strategic silence, all of it is useless if you have not solved the problem that lives inside your own chest. You can master every external tactic. You can go silent. You can build in the dark. You can let them underestimate you for years. And then one morning you wake up and the anger is still there. The resentment, the memory of every room that looked through you, every opportunity that went to someone less prepared, every time you watched someone louder and shallower get handed what you had spent years quietly earning. And in that anger, you make a move you shouldn't make. You say something you should have kept behind your teeth. You reveal your hand too early because the emotion needed an exit. You let them see that they got to you. And just like that, years of invisible work, compromised, not by them, by you. This is the part nobody wants to hear. The crowd is not your greatest threat. Your emotions are. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote his private journals not for publication but for self-correction. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was not writing philosophy. He was writing a warning to himself. Because Aurelius understood something that most people who talk about power never confront directly. The hardest thing to govern is not a kingdom. It is the 6 inches between your ears. Every external enemy, the political rivals, the hostile Senate, the threats at the border, every one of them could be strategized against, could be outmaneuvered, could be waited out. But the voice inside that said, "You are not enough. They are getting away with it. You deserve better. Why is this taking so long?" That voice could not be outmaneuvered. It had to be mastered. This is the real meaning of Stoicism that modern self-help has completely gutted and sold back to people as journaling prompts and breathing exercises. Stoicism is not about feeling calm. It is about building a wall between stimulus and response thick enough that no one, no slight, no betrayal, no injustice, can reach through it and move you without your permission. The man who can be provoked can be controlled. Think about what this means tactically. If someone knows that a certain kind of insult makes you defensive, they have a button. If someone knows that being ignored makes you desperate for approval, they have a lever. If someone knows that unfairness makes you reactive, they have a trigger. Every emotional vulnerability you carry is a handle, and the people around you, consciously or not, will find those handles, will test them, will use them, not always out of malice. Often just out of the natural human tendency to probe for weakness, to understand where the edges of someone's composure are. It happens in negotiations, in relationships, in rooms where power is being redistributed. Someone says something slightly off, watches your face, calibrates their next move based on what they see. If what they see is stillness, not the stillness of someone suppressing emotion, but the genuine stillness of someone who has already decided that external events do not determine their internal state, they have nothing to work with. They cannot calibrate. They cannot locate the lever. They walk away uncertain, which means they walk away cautious. Uncertainty about you is your protection. So let's be precise about what emotional mastery actually looks like, because this is where most people confuse the concept and end up building something brittle instead of something strong. Emotional mastery is not the absence of feeling. It is the absence of automatic response. You will still feel the sting of being overlooked. You will still notice the injustice of watching less qualified people move ahead of you. You will still feel the slow burn of betrayal when someone you trusted uses your vulnerability against you. These feelings are real. Suppressing them does not make you strong. It makes you a pressure cooker with a sealed valve. What changes is the gap between feeling and acting. The undisciplined person feels something and immediately externalizes it. The feeling arrives and the behavior follows within seconds, sometimes milliseconds. There is no space in between. This is the person who sends the email they shouldn't send, Who says the thing in the meeting that poisons their position? Who lets a flash of anger write a check their strategy can't cash? The disciplined person feels the same thing, and then pauses. Not forever, just long enough to ask, does acting on this serve my actual objective, or does it serve only my immediate need for relief? Most of the time, the honest answer is that the reaction serves relief and destroys strategy. So you hold it. You let the feeling move through you without letting it move you. You respond to the situation as it actually is, not as your nervous system has temporarily framed it. This is not passivity. This is precision. You are not refusing to act. You are refusing to act badly. You are waiting for the moment when action will land with maximum effect rather than burning your position for the temporary satisfaction of being seen to react. The person who never visibly reacts becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability in any power dynamic belongs to the person who holds it. The crowd cannot design against you if they don't know what moves you. They cannot prepare a counter if they cannot predict your pattern. Stillness is not weakness dressed up in philosophy. Stillness is strategic inaccessibility. Here is the final thing. The part that separates the people who understand this intellectually from the people who will actually live it. The crowd that ignored you was not wrong about you in the way you think. They were not missing some obvious quality that they should have seen. They were responding to the version of you that existed at the time, the version that still needed their approval, that still measured its worth by their attention, that was still waiting for external validation before it felt permitted to move. That version could not have led them anywhere. That version was too dependent on their response to be genuinely dangerous. They sensed it. Not consciously, but the way animals sense something unresolved, and they looked elsewhere. The version of you that stops needing them to see you is the version they will not be able to ignore. Not because you will perform differently, because you will be different. The quality of someone who has genuinely stopped requiring external validation is immediately legible to the people around them. Even when those people cannot articulate what they're sensing, they just know that this person is not available for manipulation through approval or rejection. They know that the usual social levers will not function, and they respond to that with the only thing humans reliably offer to something they cannot control: respect or fear, often both. You came into this with nothing but your silence and your discipline. They gave you invisibility like it was a punishment. They handed it to you like a sentence, like being unseen was something to be ashamed of, something to escape as fast as possible. They were wrong, and one day, in a way they will not be able to rationalize away, they will know it. Build inside it. Move inside it. Do the work that nobody is clapping for, in the hours nobody is watching, toward the version of yourself that requires no external confirmation to know its own weight. Let them underestimate you for exactly as long as it takes, because every day they underestimate you is another day you move without resistance. Another day the gap between where they think you are and where you actually are grows wider and more irreversible. And when the moment comes, when your work becomes undeniable and the room finally turns, when the people who looked through you suddenly look at you with that particular expression that sits somewhere between admiration and the discomfort of having been wrong, say nothing about the years they didn't see you. Do not explain. Do not remind them. Do not give them the satisfaction of watching you need their acknowledgement, even now. Let the results speak in the voice they deserve, absolute and unapologetic. You were never lost. You were loading. Stay patient. Stay dangerous.